Well, a very good morning once again, and welcome to Morning Live. It's 23 minutes before 7 o'clock on this Thursday morning, and a very big morning and day for South Africa as preparations fully underway for the State of the Nation address that'll be happening at 7 o'clock this evening. Do remember that SABC will be covering this live on every single one of our platforms. You can catch it on SABC2, SABC News, on our radio stations as well as on our digital platforms. You can see that on our SABC News YouTube channel. So it really is going to be something that I think the nation is going to tune in. They're going to want to watch it and certainly hear what the president has to say. Well, we've assembled a panel of guests here this morning. In fact, let me just tell you, we're broadcasting, if you have just tuned in, from District 6, from the Moravian Hill Chapel. That's where we are situated. We heard about the rich history of this particular area, and land is one of the issues that certainly still plagues District 6 and something that the community would really like to see being resolved, and very, very quickly. But that's not all we're talking about here on the program. As I mentioned, we've got a panel of guests that we've put together just to talk about different issues that are affecting the lives of South Africans and things that they would really like to see coming out of today's State of the Nation address. So let me begin by introducing our first three to you. So it's a pleasure to welcome Matthew Parks from COSATU. Matthew, thank you so much for being our guest on the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Right. Also, Hitile Mabunda from Ikamvu Youth. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, it's a pleasure. And of course, our economist here, Professor Murray Lebrand from the University of Cape Town. Thank you very much for being with us.
Good morning, thank you.
All right, I suppose the best starting point would be your expectations and your hopes. What would you like to see the president addressing this evening when he takes to that podium?
Sure. Look, first I think it's job creation. We're bleeding jobs from the mining sector, farming, agriculture, retail sector. So we really hope to see a big plan around job creation. And also we'd hope to see business joining government to protect and to create jobs at all costs.
Yeah. So obviously the key to that, jobs. In fact, while I've got you here and while we're talking, let's talk about that minimum wage bill. We saw most of the other unions signing it, agreeing with the 20 Rand an hour that our Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has suggested and wants to come into effect. You guys, however, were the only ones that held back. Why? What was the problem for you?
Sure. Look, COSATU is a democratic federation. We have 17 affiliate unions. We get our mandate from workers and from unions. So we basically ask for a 2-week chance to go and get a final mandate. We have a central executive committee meeting in 2 weeks' time, and we basically ask for that space to just get a final mandate. And that shouldn't be a major issue for us.
So I mean, you're almost there. It's not nothing big, and probably you are going to put your signature to it as well.
It's the final stretch of the race. We've made good progress. It's 2 years of tough negotiations. It's not just about minimum wage. It's also about labour market stability, looking at the labour relations, how to better manage conflict at the workplace. So it's quite a comprehensive package. So we needed that final touch from workers.
All right, let's move over now to Ikamvu Youth. Obviously, the youth being the integral part of South Africa, and unemployment sitting at terrible levels here in the country, and we see that predominantly affecting the youth. Obviously, that is something you want the president to address as well.
Yes, definitely. We want to look at things like the youth wage subsidy. Did that actually create more jobs? Is it something that we can roll out going forward, and will it be useful? We also want to look at youth unemployment in terms of why are youth dropping out of school? 60% of them don't make it out of school, and very few of those who do make it out of school get into university, and that just adds on to the high unemployment figures. So we need them to address that. We need them to say something. They need to come up with something innovative and something, they can implement.
Ikamvu Youth, what do you guys do? I mean, where do you fit into the picture?
So we're an after-school education program. We offer tutoring for learners in disadvantaged communities, and we help them pass matric well enough to access tertiary education or post-school opportunities.
You say that you would like the president to say something. What is that something? Because we all have, I suppose, expectations, but if you could sit down with him this morning over a cup of coffee and say, please, President Zuma, this is what we think you need to do to help the youth of South Africa. What is that one piece of advice you'd give him?
Well, I think I want it to be more than policy. I want it to be, these are the actionable steps that we will be taking forward now.
Okay. Economy. I mean, we could sit and talk the whole morning about South Africa's economy, in fact, the global economy, but we really are not in a great position as we see ourselves on the economic front. So what can the president say? What are you hoping to hear from this?
Well, it's about the vision. It's the state of the nation. And the economy is failing as an economy, as a society in a sense. We're faltering. And it links to the points that have been made so far. It's about the employment creation and the labour market, but it's about our youth coming in. This is our future. And the economy is not creating the inclusivity to pull in the youth through job creation that we need to actually transform our country. So the economy is absolutely crucial to overcoming our legacy, to building a better future for our society, but for our youth in particular. And so this notion of inclusive growth requires a framework. It requires the president to be clear about what's the big picture. It's not just about listing a whole bunch of policies. It's about how does government see its role within all hands on deck society? Last year was a terrible year. I think we all feel that we underperformed as a society. I think many people feel the president underperformed as the captain of the ship. So he needs to tell us how he's going to marshal the policy environment within which the economy can flourish.
There's always promises. There are always promises of job creation in the State of the Nation address. I mean, that's the one thing that we hear every single time at the beginning of the year. And yet, when we look back at previous State of the Nations, I mean, let's take last year's one, for instance. Again, promises of jobs. But last year we saw job losses, not job creation. I mean, if you have to see what is promised and yet what is fulfilled, how are we doing on that front?
We're doing badly. But in a sense, it's part of a vision where government has to deliver the transformation of our society, and that's never going to happen. So you can list a bunch of promises. The minimum wage issue is a great example, actually, where I'm very positive about the process that led up to the suggestion of the national minimum wage, because it was an embracing process that included the social partners. It included government talking about what it must do on the policy front, how labour legislation must work to create a productive economy, but also then what business and labour bring to the party. Labour stability, an economy that's functioning within a vision of a society. Yeah. It was an inspiring process that took us back to things we were trying in the 1990s. We need much more of that. Government pronouncing on a policy isn't going to make it work. At the end of the day, it's about our citizens in the schools, our youth. It's about our workers in the factories. That's going to make policy work. Government must create the framework for that to happen.
Yeah. And that's perhaps what we're missing out on is exactly what our economist is actually saying. I mean, from COSATU's perspective, you can see the frustration within your members, and I imagine you speak to them on a daily basis. What are some of the complaints? What are people saying? What do they want to see being done?
Sure. Look, basically, people want jobs. Everything else is secondary. The frustration is that government, again, makes promises. We will promise 500,000 jobs at the height of the crisis. We will promise 5 million jobs per government term. And as you said, we've seen job losses. I think first we'd want to really see, as the professor's saying, a job summit of sorts between government, business and labour. Yeah. What are the targets per industry, per sector? What does business need, for example, for capital assistance, investment, etc.? But also, business must also come to the party and say, what will they bring? But I think also that it can't just be a question of treasury or trade industry creating jobs. All ministers must be tasked, and we don't see a sense of accountability across government around it.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a break here on the program. This discussion is going to continue throughout the morning. We're going to add education into this in a short while as well, just to talk about what we want to see coming from education. Always one of the issues, and it's amazing at the root of all of it when we talk about skills and when we talk about giving and creating entrepreneurial economy and businesses. It's education that's at the root of all of that. So that's something that we're going to be discussing as well as continue to talk about education, the youth, housing, the labour market, you name it, everything that has to do with SONA. Just before we take an ad break, please write to us. What do you want the President to address this evening during his State of the Nation address? You can tweet us at Morning Live SABC and we'll discuss those as well. Stay tuned. We'll see you after this.